And whereas at Navy, we're so unique. I mean, let's face it, let's go over some unique things about the Naval Academy. It's an incredible academic opportunity. It's a cost-free education, meaning straight tuition, full ride for everybody. There's also a service component. You know, there's 5 years of service to the United States Navy, you know, upon graduation. And you are in, you know, this is a very much a military environment. I mean, you can't, you know, it's an academic environment, it's a Division I environment, but it's also very much a military environment. So you got to find a kid that's interested in wanting to do all three of those and be a really good student.
You know, extremely happy to have you, you know, because, I mean, you being inducted in Hall of Fame 3 times. You being inducted in the Hall of Fame on Maine Baseball Hall of Fame in 2014. And 2018, you were inducted in Maryland Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame. And in 2019, as well, you've been inducted in Providence College Athletics Hall of Fame. So I congratulate you for all the accomplishment you have done. You entering right now your 17th season. You've been coaching for over 30 years. One of the things that I'm looking for, and I hope I can, you know, you invite me to that game. You're about to reach 1,000 wins at the collegiate level. You know, a very small group of coaches have accomplished that. Tell me something, Coach. How, you know, I mean, you've been coaching for a long time, but back in the day, how everything started from you? How come, I mean, you coming from, you know, you have families from Greece, right? You know, with your last name. So how everything started with baseball?
You know, it's a lot like. I think it's a lot of, my start is a lot like a lot of people's start. You know, it was in my family. My dad was a coach. You know, I had brothers that played, and it was just what we did. Probably no different than how you grew up in some senses, that, you know, we were just around athletics our whole life. And like I said, my dad being a college coach, something I always thought was really a neat thing to do. And, you know, just got involved, got lucky enough, you know, way back in the day where, had a chance to go to Providence College and play college baseball, and stayed there for 9 years. And, you know, as far as an undergrad for 4 years. And then I stayed for a few more as an assistant coach and then a head coach. And then kind of the rest is history. But, you know, it was really just being around the game, so much like our young people today. You know, they just get exposed to it, you know, have a passion for it. You know, want to stay involved with it. And the wonderful thing about, you know, what we're in today's world is there's an opportunity for everybody. And that's not just a cliche. If, you know, different levels, of course, you know, different levels of baseball. You know, there's next level baseball pros. There's Division I, Division II, Division III, certainly junior college ball, NAIA ball. But there's an opportunity to play. So that was kind of my whole experience, just being around it and you know, just quite frankly, loving the game and wanting to be part of my life.
Is that ever occurs to you when you were a young guy that I'm going to be a coach? I'm going to stay here for the longest time being a coach. Does that happen to you before? I mean, like that, do you think about it?
You know, it's funny. I thought, you know, you're always reflecting back, and you know, I thought it might be a short stage in my life. Honestly, Ronnie, I didn't see myself doing it forever. I really enjoyed my college experience. I wanted to stay on as assistant coach, and I was fortunate enough to do that at my alma mater at Providence College. But I thought it was a short-term thing. You know, I thought I would get off into, you know, quote, the business world, or do something, you know, exactly, something like a real job or something. And, you know, it just never evolved that way. I just got more and more into it, more and more into, you know, wanting to be around the game, wanting to be around, you know, players that had a passion to do. One of the things that I most appreciate is it really, as a coach, you're a teacher. You know, I mean, that's the first thing that you are. And I love the fact that I'm you know, have that great title as being a teacher. And all my people, all my players, they want to be in class. You know what I mean? They want to learn. They're motivated to be there. They want to be successful as players. And that's a great environment to be in.
I think that's one of the greatest thing the United States have, to be honest with you. Coming out of of the country, as I mentioned before, we didn't grow up with that guidance. We didn't have someone like you say, a teacher, a mentor. That's probably where every time I have two kids, two boys now, and I keep saying to them, I mean, you have a world of opportunity right here in the United States, especially in anything that you do, like you say, well, it will be a various, some people will go to, academics, some people would take, athletics a little bit more serious. But if you play sports, if you have that passion for sports, anything can happen right here in the United States, to be honest with you. Of course, we know the percentage to go pro is what? 1%, 1.1%, something like that. I mean, it's very difficult. We know that. Same with the collegiate level. I mean, in high school level, we have 8 million high school student athletes in average in the United States, something like that. Probably 10% of those will go and play at the collegiate level for various reasons. It would be great if it's a little bit more than that, but the opportunities is always there, right? So the opportunities is always in front of people. And this is one of the things that I'm doing this, the passion that I have from college recruiting is to get the most information out to, parents and student athletes out there. Now, Coach, tell me something, because, through the years, I have a few questions right here, and I hope you allow me to ask this, but what does the record means for you? Do you look for the record, or you look for titles as coaches?
That's really a tough one. You know what I mean? I'm not, exactly. It's. I look at it as a process always. The process never changes. To me, I always joke around with the players and my staff that, we're kind of like McDonald's. You know what I mean? We just do, and you know what I mean? Kind of repeat, and try to come up with the best possible outcomes of what we're doing. Obviously you want both in some senses. You want to be but it's one of those things where I don't ever look too far in the future. I want to make sure we have a quality. First of all, we got a quality practice plan. Second, when we go out, we execute a quality practice plan. We have game day. We have a great pregame. When we play the game, we look to execute within the game. I never get too far in front of myself about all these other different things. And I think a lot of times, we get blinded by the future because we keep thinking in the future and we don't see what's right in front of us. So we try to do that. And at the end of the day, you work hard, you do what you need to do. You're going to be successful, whether that ends up in a title, whether it ends up in a record, however that ends up, you're going to be successful executing and doing what you need to do. So I think there's a lot of ways to look at that, and you just kind of have your own philosophies.
Excellent. Now, between the two, I think it's a tough one, but between the two, because I mean your record, you almost 1,000 wins. You about what right now? You are your record is. Let me show you here. I got it here from 17th season. I mean.
Yeah,
I got a few left. 985 wins, man. You 15 games away.
Right.
So I think it's important. That what you're saying, it's important because it goes together. If we concentrate too much in the future, you never know what's going to happen, right? Yeah, you never know. So you're gonna be successful if you make a good plan. Now, when it comes to recruiting, Coach, what's the first thing you will see in an athlete? Like, how you say, okay, this is it. This is a specific athlete that I need right now.
Right. You're always going to, and with your background, this, you're always going to see a skill set, meaning arm strength, quickness, speed, bat speed, hand speed, the tangibles that you can see with your eyes, that that guy has a skill set. But you know, and that's so important. Don't get me wrong. That is hugely important. Number two, I'm gonna look at a guy that has a motor, that wants to play the game. You know, wants to play it a little harder than the next guy. You know, he's not afraid to bump out the next guy. You know, in a competitive way. So I want to see skill set. I want to see a guy that can.
It'll be hunger. The hunger.
Yes, hungry to play. Wants an opportunity to play. Wants an opportunity to be successful. But then I want to see a guy that knows how to play the game. He's got a little extra sense about him. You know, he can play the game. You know, everyone can. I shouldn't say everyone, but we got a lot of players now that just connect the dots. And don't get me wrong, that's a good thing. But I want a guy that's got some instincts and a little bit of special view of the game. That doesn't mean a wild view, just a little bit of instincts into the game and playing the game. And, you know, sometimes that's a lot to see, but I think all those things are important. We've gotten caught up in baseball. We've become really a metrics-driven industry where we see 92. I'm making these numbers up, but 92, we see an exit velocity of 108 or something, and then we see arm strength across the diamond, and you know, and metrics have its place, but it's just part of the package. And I think sometimes we've brought that needle so far this way, we've lost the guy that really wants, you know, compete. The guy that likes to color outside the lines, he's got some instincts and some, you know, he just knows how to play, and we've lost some of that. So that's my idea of, you know, what I look for.
Yeah, I'm agree with you, because I think, you know, and I mentioned this with my brother as well. It's the same as in the MLB right now. I mean, like, everything is about the metrics right now. You know, I think you get faster just because of the velocity, or because the speed that you swing the bat, or how, you know, strong you arm strength is. It's about numbers now. Now, do you have any specific evaluation criteria when it comes to recruiting? Like, you know, because I have a book here, which I don't know if it is, you know, is realistic or not. But, you know, like, you know, you have to have a specific, you know, as catcher, you need to be 6'1", 200 pounds, you know, midfield, you know, 6'1" to 190 pounds. But you need to be in certain range, you know, from, you know, 85 miles an hour. Like, do you take a look at that, or
I do. We do. We're gonna have a starting point. It's such a big country out there, and there's so many people playing summer ball. You do have to have a kind of a visual, if you will, of what you're looking for. And now I think it's important, because, you know, there's some young people out there listening that just because you don't fall into that perfect size doesn't mean, you know, I mean, that doesn't mean that you're cut out of the dream of playing. Right. But you do have to start from somewhere. You know, we're going to look at our particular level of Division I baseball. You know, we're going to look for some physicality on the mound. You know, we want guys, you know, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", you know, on the mound, because they have some length to them. They can get out front and get some length to them. And I think part of that is just, like I said, a visual. We're going to look for some guys with some arm strength, anywhere as juniors between 85 and 88. You know what I mean? You know, can get the ball up there a little bit. Middle infielders in general, we're going to want to see some arm strength that measure out at, you know, anywhere between 78 and 83, 84, and getting it across the diamond. But a lot of that is how they get the ball out too, you know, and quickly they get the ball out. But there is definitely some physical tools that you're gonna look for.
You have to take those measurements. What about a catcher? You know, the pop time for a catcher. Is that, do you have to have it? Because it says here it have to be 195 or below. So that's pretty much your average.
It is. I think that's a good number. I'm always interested, not to be critical of pop times, but I'm always interested to see how they're executed. You know, if a kid's practically standing up and throwing, you're really defeating the purpose of the pop time. You know, if he stays down, they do a good job with it, and it's realistic. I think that's good. If you're 1.9, you know, if you're sub 2.0 still, if you're sub 2-0 on a legitimate pop time, you're doing some good things. You know what I mean? You're right in the ballpark of obviously being accurate and things like that go, but that's a good number too. I mean, that's a fair number.
That's a fair number. That's very interesting because I got some baseball players up there. I'm asking you because I know that I have this catcher that he wants to play Division I, but he's a bit short. He's 5'10". As catcher, he's good. He's quality hands, unbelievable. But I say, let's look for some other options. That's what you mentioned at the beginning. Yeah. There are so many levels, but sometimes parents and athletes have that. They kind of like the horses. They go like this because they want to play Division I. So on that end, what is your recommendation?
I think part of from what I understand, from where you sit, where you're trying to counsel and mentor parents, for some correct avenues, it's always, and this is so much easier said than done, honesty, of where everybody's at, I go back to saying the experience of playing. There's so many different opportunities in this country. Again, from different levels, but the bottom line is you want to be able to play and have an opportunity to play. So really being able to have a genuine connection and being honest and hopefully people are listening to that, because right now I see so many different directions, if you will, of where people are going, and sometimes it's not the right direction, and they need to also listen. You need to really be a good listener to make sure you're taking that information. So it's definitely hard. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I know. I've been there and I see it all the time. Trust me. Talking to families and I have opportunities, and sometimes it's tough to guide the best possible way. And even though that sometimes they don't pay much attention, you have to let them know. You have to let them know. Be realistic, right? Because the opportunity is there. What level is, we don't know. I mean,
I can't tell you how many times I've seen a player over the long years that I've done this where in baseball you mature everyone matures differently at different times. And how many times kids have gone to like a junior college option, all of a sudden after their 2 years, they're Division I players. You know what I mean? But they need 2 years of development before you could absolutely say that or have that. So there's a lot of different things out there, as far as levels like we've talked about. But really just that comfort in that relationship of being honest, but also I also put this back on parents now. Sometimes parents get a free ride of, what they think, but they need to be good listeners too. They really do. They need to be good listeners and really trust the people that are working with their sons, in baseball, in the sense of helping them out with that.
Helping them out, definitely. Now, tell me a little bit about your environment, on the field.
Okay.
How you manage that with your team? Because you have how many guys right now? What, 30, 32?
30. We have 35. 35 is the Division I limit that you can have, and we're fortunate here. We a lot of help. I have 2 full-time assistants, a volunteer assistant. So we're able to kind of create that intensity within practice through either some small group stuff and the biggest thing about practice is creating a competitive environment and moving. You know what I mean? Continuing to move, not to stand around, not to just not accomplish anything. And what we try to, you mentioned a good word, is we want to create a competitive atmosphere every day at practice. Like, we don't want to just wait for the games. There is no turn it on. We practice how we play how we practice. And I know that's kind of an old school term, but it's the right term. You have to do that to be successful. So we try to create that in practice. Obviously that goes into our inner squads, and then when we play in the spring, we hope that carries over. But we're going to create some competitiveness, within our practice to be successful.
To be successful. And so how many coaches you have?
We do,
two,
including myself. We'll have four. We'll have three paid coaches, and then we'll have one what we call a volunteer assistant, which everyone's allowed to have them, but they can't get paid through the school. They have to truly volunteer their time.
Excellent. So that's good, because the athletes have to have, like myself, I always have one coach. But if you have one specific, individual for like infield, outfield,
yes,
pitching, catching, hitting. So that's so you has, the head coach, what's your specialty? Like what would be your best eye when you see an athlete? Like, okay, my specialty is,
Yes, I would say, I probably feel the most comfortable and always have with the infielders. I like to work with the infielders, in that sense. I think a head coach has it's a little different, because you got to have a lot of eyes on different things to do a good job, so I'm certainly involved with the infielders, but you got to have an eye on the pitching. You got to have an eye on the catching. You got to have an eye on the outfield. You got to have an eye on your offensive approach. So an eye on your base running. So, you're spending a lot of time making sure that, the other things are done the way you want them to do. But that's just having, like I said, I feel very fortunate. I got a great staff here. They just go off and do their thing. But, kind of probably the area most comfortable is with the infielders.
Awesome. And where are you at right now, like, and the recruiting process? Because you're starting the season next spring, right? So where are you guys? Are you still looking for athletes? Your team is complete?
I think for this year's team, obviously we're already enrolled and started, enrolled in school, and this team is complete. We don't do any mid-year recruiting here. That's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit anyway, mid-year recruiting. So this is a team, but right now, I think the important thing for your listeners just to understand the cycle, or at least in the Division I sense, the cycle of recruiting. For most programs, they're pretty much winding down the 2022 class, meaning we're pretty much almost done. That isn't full for everybody in the country, but a lot of schools are winding down. Really what we're focusing on as an industry, as coaches right now, are the 2023s, the juniors right now. Yes, because the seniors pretty much we've either gotten commitments for, or, we've worked through that. So the seniors right now, again, a smaller window that we're working with right now, but really focused on the 2020, again, the juniors.
Yeah. So if I'm an athlete, in order for me to approach you, what's the best year, junior or sophomore?
Junior. It's really sophomore, junior year now, and that's changed, Ronnie, a lot since we've kind of moved up, I guess you'd call it. We're recruiting them younger and younger, but there's nothing wrong with sophomores contacting schools that they think they might be interested in. As a NCAA rule, we can't contact them until they're
the junior.
But they can write us, and we can respond to camp stuff and things like that. But at least they can forward videotapes. I think one of the really advantageous thing for young people as far as getting involved, hey, send a video clip. Send a video clip early, a little bit of hitting, a little bit of fielding. Because what that does right away is that, we look at all of them. I'll tell you, any coach that's worth their salt looks at all of them. And we kind of got an idea, okay, this is a guy that we may want to see, this spring. This is a guy that we want to make a phone call about or whatever. But really being able to send some stuff early out as a sophomore and as a junior, I think in the recruiting process for your listeners is really, really important to do that.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned something critical, the videos. Sometimes you see athletes, they always get the best play. Hey, I got a home run. I got it right there. I got a triple. That's my highlight. You know what I mean? So realistically, what I say to my athletes, I always say to them, I want to see you in practice as well. I want to see videos that you can send that you do in a practice, like a swing, like a throwing to second, or double play, if you are pitchers, your velocity, all your movement. Because I think, if I'm a coach, I would prefer to see that. But in your case, what's your first take when you see videos?
You're 100% correct. I want to see some things that you're going to have to repeat, because I can see in your swing, some of the stuff that I'm either going to, let's face it, I'm either going to kind of like, or maybe I don't, and I can see your hands, I can see your feet in some repetitive infield drills, whether it's ground ball. I want to see you throw. I want to see you get out of your hand. Like you said, in the infielder's case, I want to see them turn a double play. What's their ability to put their feet and their hands together. I think it's really important to get some skill set video clips, just what you described. The game footage is fine, because we can see it in a bat or two. I think that's fine.
Definitely. It has to be part of it. Yeah.
It has to be part of it. But the so-called, I only laugh because that is a phenomenon that's taken over. The highlight reel, you know what I mean? Yeah, we know that all these 10 at-bats, I'm going to see a really good at-bats because you put a highlight reel together. So, but I definitely think, Ron, you are right. Some skill sets in practice, catcher receiving baseballs, seeing things that as coaches we think we can, really develop that, or maybe that's not something we can develop.
Definitely, because that takes me back, back in the day, we didn't used to have, these, phones and everything. And now everything you can just record from. So back in the day, your recruiting used to be like that, right? You have to see something more person to person. So that takes me to my next question is, do you like to you go to showcases? Do you send your staff, or you yourself go to showcases or camps or ID camp? I mean, what would you do in this scenario?
Really in the summer, pretty much, that's what we do. And whatever the term, showcase camp, ID camp, those multiple team tournaments that, where you have 50 teams or 200 teams, or, we're going to try to see as many guys as we possibly can play the game. So however that happens, I am not a huge fan of the straight showcase where they run the 60, take 3 ground balls and take batting practice, because I don't know. You need to see more than that.
It's a little bit incomplete. Right.
It's very incomplete. Yes. Yeah. And again, you can see running speed for sure. You can see arm strength and some stuff, but still want to see them play the game, still want to see how they approach the game and what they're doing. But that's pretty much what we're going to do all summer. So, we got a kid that's going to be I'm just making this up, a tournament in New Jersey, and we're high on that kid. We're going to go to that tournament in New Jersey. There's certainly some national events that make more sense for us to go, because there's so many teams in one area. You could do that. But really that exposure piece is highlighted in the summer, I think, with different summer programs and doing that.
Do you invite them to your camp? Like, do you do ID camps as well? Do you do that normally or not?
Yeah, no, that's a huge part, and that's a huge part. Huge, because what we'd like to say is, because Navy is so unique. It's the United States Naval Academy. It's definitely a different experience.
We're gonna go over that. I want you to take me on that right now too.
Yeah, it's a different. And going back to the previous question, we do a lot of ID camps because I tell kids, and maybe this is wrong, maybe it's right. I said, hey, why don't you pick out 3 or 4 schools that you really are interested in, and go to their ID camp for 2 days, because that's going to be a really good exposure piece, for you right in front of them. And whereas at Navy, we're so unique. I mean, let's face it. Let's go over some unique things about the Naval Academy. It's an incredible academic opportunity. It's a cost-free education, meaning full ride for everybody. There's also a service component. There's 5 years of service to the United States Navy, upon graduation. And you are in, this is a very much a military environment. I mean, you can't, it's an academic environment, it's a Division I environment, but it's also very much a military environment. So you got to find a kid that's interested in wanting to do all 3 of those and be a really good student.
Yeah, I mean, that's academics. You know, it's important, right? So I imagine, your requirements will be by what, 390 and above, something like that. That's the requirements for academics.
Yeah, you're going to have, really solid courses and taking the right courses, not, very competitive courses. You're going to have anywhere between a 3.8 to 4.0 type,
Okay.
GPA.
Okay.
Probably the SAT scores.
You take into consideration a lot that the SATs on the ACT?
Yes, the SATs have a bearing. Not everything, and I want to be clear how it's not everything. It's not the end all and be all, but it does have a part of the process of evaluating. And we're looking for students, to be over 1,200 on those between the SAT combined, ACT around 25, 26 combined. And that's, like I said, I want to be very careful because we have guys that have less than 1,200. We have guys that have 1,400 here.
Exactly. It could vary, but it's not a specific number. Correct. Now, this takes me to something important, and because I have the opportunity to get reached by a lot of international athletes.
Right.
Can an international athlete come to the Navy?
Yes.
Is that possible? Oh, really?
Now,
Okay.
but the catch kind of is there, and this is the particular international student has to have a country that has a Navy and has a Navy that, for instance, that works, the Japanese have a Navy. We'll have some exchange students from Japan. So there is that room, but it's a very narrow scope. So we're mostly, the highest percentage are domestic, although we have taken international students here, on occasion.
What will be your average, and on the 16 years that you've been there, 17 years coming up, how many international athletes you have?
It's pretty small, and quite frankly, it's something that I need to look more into as the world gets small, as do all our coaches. But there is some things, as because there's citizenship issues. There's Definitely. Some things that go into the equation. But it is pretty small, right? It's a pretty small amount.
To be honest with you, that's one of the things that I mentioned to, going back again, because this is, my brother and I are talking a lot about sports and academics and everything. But, I love aviation in my opinion. I actually have some flying time. I have around 300 plus 50 hours, flying time. If I knew back in the day when I got here, 20 years ago to the United States, I would go to the Navy, probably play baseball right there. Right. But I didn't know nothing. I didn't have that knowledge, like I said, because I mean, you imagine, to me it's a beautiful deal, because I mean, you play in the sports, high level, Division I, right? You get an outstanding academic program. Right. And then you get to do something that might be your dream, as a kid. Like my case, I wanted to play baseball all my life, but I always wanted to be a pilot as well.
Right.
Right. So I could accomplish both pretty much.
One of the biggest things, and you kind of just hit on it, is that we need to generally in society do a better job of making sure people understand this opportunity. This is a phenomenal opportunity. Again, you have to be a very good student. You have to be a very good, in this case, baseball player. Want to serve this country, want to serve our country in a way that is so substantial. It is so meaningful what our midshipmen do. I mean, that's what we call students here. What the people at West Point do, at Army, what the people at Air Force do, and what they go on to accomplish. You mentioned a passion for flying. That's what a lot of kids say. Hey, that's something that I think I want to do. And it's a way to not only fulfill that passion, but also to serve serve your country, which is, a pretty important thing to do. So, and sometimes in certain communities, across the country, and it's a big country, people aren't aware enough of these opportunities that, potentially exist here, here at Navy, certainly at Army, certainly at Air Force.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I applaud all these guys, even though I'm not, born here in the United States, I've been more than half of my life here. I'm a U.S. citizen right now, and I appreciate, all the efforts and everything that they guys do. And sometimes it's unfair, for what I've seen. I don't want to be moved too much. I don't want to touch bases on politics and nothing like that, because this is not, but, I think, the Navy, the Army, I mean, it's just a beautiful things to see. You know what I mean? And when I see that you can get your free education, have high competition, high level competition, and, I mean, to me, I'll take it. I'll take it anytime. Of course, not everybody have that mentality, but it is important. It's important. Now, let me take you to something important that you have accomplished, because you have coached, players that have made it to MLB and being drafted in the first round. So how you feel about all those accomplishments?
It's always neat to be able to look back and have a player that's gone on to play Major League Baseball and to see how they've taken something you both shared passionately, and how they've taken it to the highest level. I mean, I mean, you talk about Major League Baseball, and these players are the best players in the world. They really are. Yeah. I mean, and it's the aspiration, even though there's incredible baseball played everywhere, the still aspiration is to play Major League Baseball, whether you're from where you grew up or, Asia, wherever it is, it's baseball. So to have players play is pretty neat. What the neatest thing about it is to know them when they didn't know anything, and you know what I mean, when they weren't so successful.
That's a good one.
Kind of the funny stories of humility that they had to experience to become pros. And I think if you ask most, I should say, Major League Baseball players, they all started from, really not knowing, really not being successsual, having to have humility. And that's one of the great things I love about baseball, is that if you are not a humble person, because it's a failure-driven game, you're going to fail, then you will struggle with the game. And if you can't chuckle every once in a while at yourself, and you can't tip your hat to the opponent, meaning that guy was better than me today, you're going to have a very short career in baseball. Yes. So it's nice to look and see where they are today, of course, and what they've done, but it's also nice to remember where they were.
They were.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yes. That's beautiful. Now you get draft people draft every year and into the draft, or it varies.
It varies, and we're kind of unique here because obviously our mission, our goal is to graduate and serve in the United States Navy. So
I imagine the graduation rate is 100%, right?
It basically very extremely high. Yeah. So they're gonna, there is some limitations on what you can do, even with the guys that have been drafted here at Navy. They've had to serve for 2 years, and then they've tried petitioned to go to Major League Baseball. They've done that, but it's really not the focal point. The focal point is certainly going on, graduating, and serving our country.
Definitely.
A couple of years ago, we had the final. One of the Noah Song was a finalist for the Golden Spikes Award. That's one of the best. That's the top 4 players in college baseball, and he was a finalist. We had a 20th round draft pick this year. We've had players that have played. So it does happen, but I want to be clear. Philosophically, that's not what we're doing here.
That's not what. No, it's just But I said, it's not because, like you mentioned, it's the main focus is to get the education, of course, but serve the country without a question. That's probably why you committed, because if you sign an agreement with you you had to serve the country for at least 5 years, right? That's the agreement. That's the reason why I give you free tuition, and
exactly.
you're not paying anything for your education. So I think that's beautiful exchange. But but I said it's an extra, probably, if I'm an athlete, a baseball player, it might be an extra motivation for me. Hey, you know what? You never know, because what is that showing to me? That's showing that you have a good program. If I'm an athlete, I would look at okay, what Coach Paul is having rated. Does he has a good record on draft? Does he, because if I'm an elite athlete or I'm close to it, I would want a competitive program,
Right. So, and I think I feel like you just summed it up very well. We want to have that opportunity, the aspiration of being as good as you can be, and don't ever want to limit an athlete to do that. And we've had, like I said, several players play and we've had a couple players play in the big leagues, had several players play in the minor leagues. And we don't want to limit that. But at the same time, like you said, there's some other things. So it's not quite as straightforward as, quote, the other civilian schools, in the country.
Yeah, most definitely, it's different. It's different, but they have to know that from the beginning, without no question. Now, quick question, Coach, as coach, how you overcome when the athlete is not performing at the highest level, because it could happen that you say, okay, when you recruit somebody and it comes to play, he's not what you expecting. Okay, so how you overcome that? Like how you mentor that dude to make it better?
Yeah, I you know what, that may be, of all my interviews that I've ever been, that may be one of the most important things that a coach does do, because we all hear about this guy did this guy did that, but there's also the times where, as you go to the college level and whether it be an environment thing, sometimes kids just don't feel comfortable in the environment, and it hurts their performance. Whether it's, a performance thing, just not performing well enough, that's part of it. I think the real first of all, I think we in college we tend to give up on people too soon. We want to get another transfer in. We want to do this. We want to do that. I think the first thing you say to players, hey, let's put some time in first. Maybe you're underperforming now. Maybe it's the environment. Maybe I'm not connecting with you as a coach, which certainly happens. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the deal. Let's give it some time. That's the first thing. I've noticed more and more players get very impatient if they're not, meeting their own level of achievement right away. They can get very dark, and that's not. So first of all, I always encourage some time. Second, I always ask them, are you taking advantage of every opportunity of practice? Are you taking advantage of every pre-practice that we come out and we hit, we throw, we do? How you excelling? And I'll be serious with them. How are you excelling in the weight room? Are you working really, really hard, in the weight room? And I want you to answer those questions first. Now, if you can say yes, yes, and yes, okay, then we have another conversation. But a lot of times kids will self-reflect and say, I could be working a little bit harder. I could be making some adjustments with the pitching coach. I could be doing a little better job in the strength and conditioning area. So always try to, have a conversation with players, about this stuff. And ultimately, if it's still not where they want to be, you know what I mean? There's different options, and, you can try to find a new environment, or maybe, maybe playing at this level is not for you. But certainly time in that questioning of, what needs to be expressed to them. As far as what they need to do.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's part of it, and I ask you that because like I mentioned before, it's with the video, everybody wants to show you the best and, all the time. It's the same, every athlete hits a slump. Every athlete goes through mental, issues when it comes to, how can I make it better, right? And for me, you guys are more than coaches. I think the guys, your guys' job is being a mentor, being a coach, being a teacher, right? Being a psychologist,
Yeah.
And most of the time a parent as well, because you there with those kids for 4 years, 5 years, right? So it's important for them to get a good answer from you on that end, because I that's what I like from this. I asked this question because I learning from you as well, and the athletes that are listening to this, they have a better understanding about the recruiting as well. Now, another quick question is, you as mentor, what would be your best advice to an athlete that's coming from high school to the collegiate level?
I honestly, do your homework, meaning, don't just be committed to school X and say, I'm committed to school X as a sophomore or, early on in the junior, and, you haven't thoroughly visited the school. You should have a really good head coach, the assistant coach that recruited you. Make sure that that's part of the process, in the sense of building that relationship. Make sure it's the right school and you're going for the right reasons, okay? It's something that has to be part of it. Like, I always tell players that if you broke your leg on the second day of practice, would you still want to go to that school? Would you still want to be part of that environment? And if the answer is yes, you have the right school. We're doing some crazy things out there. We're committing. We've never seen schools. We're committing in the sense that I don't even know what major I want to look at. We're committing sometimes, and I'm being funny, but you don't even know what part of they don't even know what the town is like or the city is like. Yeah. Where they're going. And so I would tell every single student athlete out there, do your homework. This is a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's not just about baseball. You're going to meet in college, if you have a great experience, you're going to meet tremendous people. They'll probably be your best friends for life. You're going to meet people that you never thought you'd have relationships with. Baseball, it's really, really important. Don't get me wrong. It's still just a subset of the day. There's still going to school. There's interacting on campuses. There's, the social life. There's everything there. Baseball can only be a certain amount of the day. So I really just encourage, young people to go out and do their homework.
Who do the homework. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome, Coach. Coach, I would take you probably 1 more hour, but I don't want to take much time away from you. It's been fun meeting you, man. I'm telling you, it's been great having you in the episode, and I appreciate your time, man. I'll be honest.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you doing this. I think you posed some insightful questions. I think there's a young person or two out there that just might hear something from you that get them going in the right direction. And isn't that what we want for everybody?